Power 100. This is your Power Breakfast with Archie and Donny. And, mate, joining us right now, radio basketball immortality in our country, Donny.
Yes, absolutely. It's a man who's won 6 NBL championships as a coach, been awarded the NBL Coach of the Year 6 times, most successful coach in NBL history, and current head coach of our Australian Boomers, Brian Goorjian. Good morning.
Good morning.
Brian, let's start off just asking the question. Basketball in Australia right now, we're in a great position heading into Paris, coming off, of course, the bronze medal in 2020. How are preparations tracking? Because, we're about 4 months away, roughly.
Correct. Just got back from a trip to the States, United States, NBA, and caught up with all the potential guys playing in the NBA there, trying to, make sure everybody comes in ready and tighten everything up before we go into camp. Camp will probably start in June, and as you're saying, it's right around the corner. We're really excited about the team that we've got. We've led 6 new guys in at the World Cup, and the competition's going to be elite. NBA, USA team's going to load up. Serbia's going to have the Joker. Luka's there. It's going to be a tough tournament, but I'm really excited about the team. I think it's in a really good position with these new players added to the Patty Mills, Joe Ingles, that group. So, fingers crossed, and the preparation is going to be elite. We're going to have a nice camp, some good games leading in, some good European competition, and it's an exciting time for basketball. Just the state of the Boomers, everything going on in the NBL, and all these young kids, falling in love with the game.
Well, speaking about the NBL, we're at essentially the pointy end of the season now, a place that you know very, very well. Can we get a tip off you for who's going to take the whole thing out? I know we're about to go into the play-ins and playoffs, but this far out, who do you have in your scope?
Well, I really like Melbourne, and I know they've kind of plateaued a little bit down the back end. But when you go into these final series, and one, they've got a automatic bid into the semifinals, which you get if you finish top 2. Number 2, they're the best defensive team in the competition, and number 3, they've got great depth in all positions. And you're going to go to win it. You're in a 5-game series, a 3-game series, which is unique because it's totally different than the regular season. And then surprise package, and maybe it's not a surprise package. I just really like the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers, the style in which they play. They've tapped on the door for 2 consecutive years, a semifinal, a final. Added pieces to this roster. They got Magne playing real well in the post. And, Purse there, obviously, but a surprise package could be the Jack Jumpers.
Now, look, we've ticked off the state of Australian basketball. It's in a great place. The Boomers looking great. Under you, Brian, we've got nothing to worry about. We're expecting gold. Anything less, we won't accept that.
No pressure.
No pressure. No, you'll be fine, Brian. But look, we're talking about the teams who are playing in the play-ins here and the pointy end of the NBL season. There's a bigger mission that we believe is there, Brian, at the moment. And, of course, we need to get your thoughts on a situation that we have brewing here in Townsville that is affecting the basketball community in our city. Have you heard about this yet?
I have not.
Okay, well, look, you're aware that the Townsville Crocs, who you would have come up against as a coach many times, we're not in the league anymore.
I know that. Yes, I know that. 100%. And we don't. I just tremendous competition there. We could go on and on. But my last touch with it, I had a couple brothers that are from Townsville that would constantly come into practice and wearing Crocs tops. And, they'd get an earful from me, and always talk about the history and all the things and there was quite a few experiences that took place up there. And these guys, I coached the father, and I knew these kids growing up, and they're Crocs fans. And just recently, I noticed I was watching a Hawks game, and some guys had come down from the Crocs, from Townsville, wearing Crocs tops. and they were sitting on the baseline, and they got interviewed on television and were pointing to their singlets saying, "Bring them back."
Yeah,
and I would definitely support that.
Well, it's funny you say that, Brian, because we have a bit of a situation. In fact, it's a bit of a standstill at the moment in our city. Now, we had a cyclone here a couple of weeks ago, and strangely, one of the things that got damaged was an enormous Hungry Jacks sign from one of the stores here blew away in the cyclone. Now, the listeners at Power 100 helped us gather it all up. They've delivered it to the radio station, and now we want to give this sign back to Hungry Jacks, who, of course, as you know very well, Brian, is the major sponsor of the NBL, right? They have the power. So what we're proposing, Brian, is we'll give them their sign back. We'll let the sign free, but they need to get the Crocs back into the NBL. Now, we're going to ask you now if you think that's a fair deal. But before we do, we'd like to play you what Andrew Gaze, a man you know very well, this is what he thought as far as if this is fair is concerned.
That is a more than a fair trade.
There we go!
Some may call it blackmail. There's some real strong merit in that because it's a win-win for everyone. They get their much-valued sign. The community gets their much-valued Crocs.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, couldn't think of a fairer trade. Brian, do you agree that the sign for the Crocs is a fair deal?
Who could say it better than Andrew Gates? The history, I mean, it's funny. I go back to, my last year of playing was Andrew's first year. And, I was brought over by his father, and there's no more traditional basketball and caring for basketball in this country than Andrew Gates. And he says it well. I mean, the NBL is trying to grow. I mean, one of the things that is missing is teams for all these players that we're developing to play in. And my memory, some of my greatest battles and fun times, I am getting older. There was a great pub there that everybody used to go to after the game was over. You had characters like Carmichael running the team, started with the mascot when you walked in the door, bus driver. One of the loveliest men I've met in this country was the guy that used to pick us up and take us to our hotel and pick us up after the game and bring us back. We'd always tap each other. He'd tell us all about, the city as we were driving through every time. And I'd been there like 1,000 times. Speech. And he'd watch the game and was passionate like everybody else. And there was some great characters up there. It was a great environment to play in. And kind of again, I can't even remember where I was or if I was still when it stopped. It was kind of, again, a surprise to me. I always thought it was, a competitive team and had great support. Now, I left towards the end where, the NBL was waning at the same time. And when something like that happens and you're in a city like Melbourne and the teams I was with were struggling, it's not a good sign for, a situation like Townsville. But again, the basketball's in a different state now. All the teams seem to be flourishing. The crowds are great, and we need teams. So, great tradition. It was a great club. And as a coach, and I know players, we look forward to going up there and playing.
Well, that sounds like an endorsement to me, Brian. So we'll just ask, I know you're busy with the Boomers right now, but if we're able to pull off this deal with Hungry Jacks for the sign, could we please just put you down for like one guest appearance as the coach of the Crocs if we get him back?
Well, I hope I'm in a situation where I'm coaching against you, and I'll come up there and we had some. I can tell you one good one on my way out the door. I just remember It was a while ago, but Bruce Palmer telling me the story of you had that famous Croc that ran around that stadium, and I think there was a situation where he got into it before the game with a few of the guys, and somebody grabbed him by the snout and gave him a little pop in the gut. And he was, waiting afterwards for and I think it was, a couple of guys from the Giants. I think it was the Giants, but the story was strong that he had, there was wire inside the snout of that thing, and it cut up his face a little bit. And when he was waiting for him, the thing that was surprised, he's a pretty strong, fit dude, and it was like, man, put this guy in chains and keep him away from my team. Somebody's going to get hurt here. But he was an angry camper.
So basically, yes, you'll coach the
you'll
Crocs
coach
at
the
least
Crocs. You'll
once,
coach the Crocs.
Brian. At least one game, Brian. We'll put you down for one.
Sounds good.
Yes!
Oh, we got Brian Goorjian on. Look, we appreciate you so much coming on our show, Brian, the head coach of our Australian Boomers. We'd actually really love to catch up with you again as the Olympics gets closer, because all eyes are going to be on the Boomers. They always represent our country so well when it comes to the Olympic Games, and with you at the helm, we have all the confidence. We really appreciate your time on the show this morning.
Thank you.